There's no time like the present, someone once said. Tonight, we beg to differ.
You've got mail.
A trip back to the dawn of the me decade, the early 80s. A year of close calls and high drama, the first Ms. Justice, and a little round man who ruled. On the college hardwood, all the shorts were shorter, all the shots, two-pointers. In Chapel Hill, a young man named Jordan was just starting out, while in Charlottesville, a modern-day Samson was a pillar of strength. So sit back, settle in, take your foot off the gas, because right now on this network, there's no time like the past.
ESPN presents NCAA basketball.
Welcome to Chapel Hill, North Carolina, where we have turned back the clock to the early 1980s, the beginning of the me generation, in a time of bad hairstyles and even worse fashions. But there was great ACC basketball. It's Turn Back the Clock on ACC Wednesday, presented by Staples. Virginia at number 4, North Carolina, as we hit the Wayback Machine for a trip to circa 1981 and 1982. We'll have some reminders of what television basketball looked like then, with some obvious modern upgrades to make it more watchable. Welcome to Chapel Hill, everybody, and that's the way, good grief, that's the way it looked like in 1981. Is this really the way it was 24 years ago?
I don't know if I had this kind of hair. I know I was preparing for games with the Milwaukee Bucks at the time. And if I wasn't spending money going to the movies, Raging Bull, Ordinary People, Coal Miner's Daughter, I was home watching television, Hill Street Blues, and Taxi. That's what dominated my life. Oh, by the way, I think I gotta go give Dr. J back his head.
At least at one point you were 7'3". Doris Burke is the third member of our crew. She had a chance to talk to the coaches about their memories of the early 80s.
Mike, both of these coaches were still serving as assistant coaches. Both served some notable mentors. For Roy Williams, of course, it was a seat alongside the great Dean Smith. His most vivid recollection, a young gun named Michael who won the 1982 National Championship. For Pete Gillen, he says his style hasn't changed much. He was serving as an assistant to our own Digger Phelps. Notre Dame upsetting Virginia 26-0. They went into that game with number 1. But he said his most important responsibility, guys, Digger's dry cleaning.
All right, Doris, and that was a big job. Usually our Star Watch revolves around the guards. There's so many great guards in this conference, but tonight it's the big guys.
Well, for Virginia, Elton Brown, third in the conference in rebounding. He's the inside presence Virginia needs. And Sean May, averaging 18 points, 12 rebounds over the last 5 games. He has been a mainstay for Carolina.
First time these teams met, it was a mismatch in Charlottesville. North Carolina ran away from the game after Virginia had been dominating this series recently. The throwback uniforms do not include short shorts.
No, I don't think any of the guys wanted to wear them. I spoke with Sean May before the game. He said he could deal with the V-neck, but when it came to the short shorts, he left that to his dad.
Elton Brown, the jump center for the orange-clad Cavaliers against Jawad Williams, in North Carolina controls the opening tip. May off the fingertips of Manuel and taken away by Virginia. Virginia has been much better lately. They have won 3 in a row as they have gone to a 3-guard offense. It has held down the turnovers, held down the scoring, and they have won 3 straight games in the conference.
Well, against the Carolina man-to-man, one of the things Virginia doesn't want to do is turn it over in the open floor, allowing Carolina to get into transition. They're the best in the country at going from defense to offense.
Bannister Shot clock down to 12. Bannister with a runner, and it won't go. Then he gets the steal and kicks it back out. Good play by Bannister. Carolina thought they had a walk. Now they've got a turnover. Here come McCants. And there's the foul as Jawad Williams goes to the hole. The Tar Heels, obviously, if you've seen them this year, just loaded with talent. Manuel, Williams, and May up front. McCants and Felton are the guards.
You know, we talked about turning it over in the open floor, and that's exactly what Virginia did. And Carolina's so quick in making that transition. They're on you in 3 to 4 seconds. Never have a chance to get your defense set.
Marvin Williams will not be available for North Carolina tonight. He has a bad big toe on his left foot, an injury that occurred against Connecticut, so they're going to hold him out as a precautionary measure.
That suit kind of looks like mine a little bit.
Yeah, it does. Just
amazing how things come back.
If you wait long enough. Here's full court pressure by the Heels. Singletary. They've got numbers. Reynolds for 3. Brown tried to keep it alive. And that is out of bounds to Virginia.
But if you're going to stay in competition with Carolina, you've got to be able to compete on the boards. Virginia needs to get more than one orange shirt on that glass offensively.
And Virginia, the worst rebounding margin team in the conference. There's a jumper by Smith, and Devin Smith gives us our first tie of the game at 2. McCants, nice dish inside to May.
I tell you, Mike, the thing that impresses so much about Sean May are his hands. You can throw the ball. It doesn't have to be perfect. He's got a way of corralling it. That's the first thing you look at with a big guy. Does he have hands?
Lenny and I did the North Carolina-Virginia game, and Virginia tried to run with the Heels and were blown out in that ball game. They have changed their style since then, and it's been very good to them.
Well, they're much more deliberate offensively, looking to try to get the ball in key spots like there with Big Elton Brown. And you're not trying to trade shot for shot.
Brown, who's averaging 14 points a game, banked that in. May got away from Brown this time and scores easily, and the Heels back on top 6-4.
Much too easy, that entry pass into Sean May. Not enough pressure on the ball, and no one near May on the block.
Singletary with a drive and fouled on the way in, goes down hard. And Jack Emanuel will be called for the foul.
Well, that's a good idea for Sean Singletary. If you're going to do anything against the Carolina defense, as they like to deny, they gamble a little bit, you got to be able to put it on the floor, aggressively go to the basket, and Singletary is very capable of doing that.
He is a 4-time ACC Rookie of the Week this year. And one of the bright spots for Pete Gillen's Cavaliers.
And here's an example of that revamped Virginia offense really spreading the floor. This looks like the 4 corners Carolina ran in 1981.
T.J. Bannister, the sophomore from Jacksonville, Florida. Cuts inside a double team, has a runner and hits it. I think this was a nice coaching job by Pete Gillen to totally change the style for this club and give them a much better chance to be competitive.
Well, I agree with you. You know, he could have given up, his team could have given up after the thrashing by Carolina, but he went back to the drawing board, made some adjustments, slowed the tempo, and just as importantly, he got them to recommit the defense. You know, opponents in the last 3 games, and Virginia's 3-0 in the last 3, have averaged 59 points a game, which is a vast difference from the prior 14, where opponents average 85 a game.
Absolutely. Pete Gillen calls a timeout with 17-13 to go in the first half. We're tied at 6. And, of course, Pete Gillen is somebody who's always been known throughout his career as somebody who will burn timeouts whenever he thinks he needs to use one.
Well, I mean, that's Pete's philosophy. Obviously, stop the bleeding. I look at him like a lot of people who own credit cards. You spend it, you worry about paying for it later.
There you go. And you can't take them with you either. Virginia got off to a 3-0 start in the last game in Charlottesville, and that was about the highlight for them. North Carolina led by 36 at the half and shot 60% from the floor Virginia was inept in just about every category you can think of. And about the only guy who played hard the whole game was Sean Singletary, freshman who had the ball right there, number 44.
And to go back to the point we were making about not giving up, this team, Virginia, was down at one point by 50 or more points at home. And so the embarrassment and everything else could have wilted other people. But again, Pete Gillen got his team's attention once again, got them refocused and recommitted.
Reach-in foul on Singletary. A lot of the graphic looks you're seeing tonight in this throwback back the clock game is exactly what you'll see on games on ESPN Classic. A couple of those left as we head down the stretch of the season. If you want to tune into ESPN Classic and see those, they're very interesting ball games.
That was another easy feed down on the post. This time McCants against Brown. Brown acted as though he didn't want to be on McCants. Just let him go right to the basket.
Sure did.
So much for recommitting the D, at least for that trip.
Reynolds trying to penetrate, kicks it outside. Now they go in the corner to Bannister. Out to Reynolds for three. Too strong and rebounded by Felton.
But the good part about it is you see the difference in the offense is that they took it with a balanced floor. They're able to get back defensively even if they miss it.
2 on 3. Out to Singletary. He's got a wide open three-pointer. Too strong. May with another rebound. Felton, whose shooting has improved dramatically, knocks down that one. Raymond Felton is the leading three-point shooter in terms of percentage in the Atlantic Coast Conference, up from 31 a year ago to 46 this year. He worked so hard on the mechanics, and boy, has it paid off.
And he's got a comfort level as well. You can come down on the break. If you're not guarding him, he's definitely not going to hesitate in pulling up and taking that shot. Plus, when you got rebounders like May underneath, you shoot with confidence knowing they can go get it.
Brown against May. There's the double team. They try to go back out to the corner to Devin Smith. We've got a timeout. 15-15 to go first half.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is presented by Staples. That was easy. And in part by DirecTV. DirecTV is rethinking the way television should be.
(11-6) Carolina with the early lead. Doris Burke with some arts and entertainment notes from 1981. Doris.
Well, most notably the best Oscar. Ordinary People, a very powerful movie. Hill Street Blues, Len, one of your favorites. And somehow, Lenny, I think Sailing was the best song, but the Commodores more along the line for you and I.
Do you have all the Commodores records?
I got a few of them. Lionel Richie, Brick House.
Oh, yeah. I never missed Hill Street Blues. That was a great show. Be careful out there.
That's right. It was enduring. No question about it. The first of the great TV police dramas.
And the shot clock expired before they hit the rim. Virginia comes out of the timeout, does not get a shot, and that will disappoint Pete Gillen.
Well, I'll tell you what, you know that he discussed it in the timeout. You just wonder what happened in the translation. His guys have to recognize you need a quick hitter and get it up on the rim.
Jason Kane, number 32, is in there. And Kane is going to pick up a pushing foul, I believe. That'll be one on the sophomore out of Philadelphia. It's NBA Wednesday here on ESPN at 9 Eastern. Golden State and Seattle. Don't miss the Sonics dynamic duo Ray Allen and Rashard Lewis. It's 11-6 here. Tar Heels on top, and Melvin Scott, number 1, checks in to get some action for the Heels. And here's an offensive foul on Felton as he tried to get through a double team and picked up his first.
Well, that's an excellent job by Sean Singletary, recognizing Felton's momentum was going to carry him through that. Stepped up to stop the ball, and Felton continued right over him.
Well, just what you see out of Singletary in a couple of glimpses in his freshman year. He's got a chance to be a special player. And there is an airmail from Bannister. You got to buy a ticket to get that one. The third turnover for the Cavaliers.
Well, again, as a skip pass, you can take a look right here. Good thought out of the double team. But again, the problem with T.J. Bannister, he's getting double teamed by guys 6'4", 6'5", and better. He's 5'10". He couldn't see.
He almost threw that one back to 1981.
You know, that's one of the things that's so difficult with Carolina. They've got athletes, long arm, very quick, who can play in the backcourt, and when they get shorter guys, it makes it so difficult on them to see, to make passes.
Number 34, Noel, is in there. He is a very athletic player as well. Here's a steal for the Cavaliers. Virginia doing much better defensively. 4 turnovers by the Heels, and Kane pressured on the way up by Jawad Williams. Can't hit the runner.
Again, not part of the Virginia offense, at least the revamped Virginia.
Nice dish. Noel can't hit the shot after McCann's got him the basketball.
You know, whenever you make a steal in a situation like this, you're on the road, you want to come down because it's an extra opportunity. You want to come down and make sure you get a good look. You know, that time there's no real opportunity for Kane to even get close to the rim.
Singletary trying to penetrate.
You know, they want to continue to build and breaking this deficit and keep this crowd totally out of the game.
Kane walked. Gary Forbes, number 23, is also in the ball game for Virginia. And Pete Gillen hasn't got many productive trips lately out of his offense. Neither is Roy Williams, for that matter.
Well, Virginia's had their opportunities, and you look over the last 4 minutes, they haven't scored. They've gotten some shots, but they weren't good shots. And that's what I mean by making sure when you steal the ball, when you limit Carolina to 1 shot off the glass, you come down and make sure you run something that's going to get you a good look.
Good defense again by Singletary. Got a hand in there to knock that one away. Bannister gives it up for Devin Smith, who's had trouble getting a good look early in the ball game.
Well, if there's anybody paying attention, it's Sean Singletary. He's been in the middle of a number of good defensive plays. And when he handles the ball, usually something good happens.
Double team here, goes out to Forbes, and Gary Forbes comes off the bench to knock down a jump shot. He's up to 9 points a game, coming off a 21-point performance against Georgia Tech. And there's a jump shot by Felton with a quick answer on the other end. This style really seems to suit Virginia much better than the up-tempo.
Yeah, as long as they don't revert back to the old days, and they have in a couple of trips in this half. But for the most part, they have spread the floor, looking to attack gaps.
Let's go to Doris Burke. Doris?
Well, guys, obviously that last possession for Carolina, a notable difference in the jump shooting of Raymond Felton. Of course, Roy Williams said he had a chicken wing style, and where that right elbow flared out. 400 jump shots a day minimum over the summer has completely turned his accuracy around.
Well, Doris, that's all about muscle memory. The more shots you take in perfect form, the better your form will be in game situation. That's all about practice makes perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect.
Shot clock was down to 4. Melvin Scott picked up a foul.
And you take a look at the follow through right there. Felton's elbow perfectly aligned with the basket instead of sticking out to the side.
Boy, Len, you make a great point. You can go out and practice and reinforce all the bad habits. It doesn't do you any good at all.
No, absolutely not. And that's what I mean with all the young players listening out there. When you go out and you practice, you have to do it properly and then repeat it. Muscle memory will take over if you do it enough. 400 shots a day, even I could remember that.
Bannister hits both free throws, and it's 13-11. Cavaliers have closed within 2. What a difference from Charlottesville. And now they're in the zone on defense. Scott trying to penetrate. And Scott got it back in the wheel at the baseline. That's a pretty move after he made a mistake.
Well, that was pure instinct right there. Melvin Scott just trying to avoid contact with Jason Kane. Pirouettes to the hoop.
Now Singletary is out, and it's up to Bannister to run the clock. Smith goes baseline, double team, banked it home anyway.
And that was a good play on. Good no call by Larry Rose underneath. And Sean May never really had good defensive position and no contact.
Felton with a long rebound off of Scott's miss. And the longer Virginia stays in this ball game, the more confidence they are going to gain playing at North Carolina. That doesn't mean it'll end up as anything else than it is expected to, but it's certainly keeping it a lot closer right here as Noel gets a bucket.
Well, you know, they've got a winning attitude. We mentioned before they've won their last 3 straight. They know they're a different team than they were 4 or 5 games ago.
That is the 6th turnover against Virginia. Pete Gillen wanted a foul, won't get it. Melvin Scott with a break here for the Heels, and they're up by 4. Carolina with a 4-point lead on Virginia. Here's Doris Burke.
Mike, Virginia's slowdown style may in the long run help this North Carolina team. Roy Williams has said on multiple occasions, we can be a very pretty basketball team, out in transition, hitting threes, dunking the basketball. But the key in March is being able to play in a half-court set. The grinded-out style, Lenny, that Virginia's going to try to put on North Carolina. We saw Duke last week beat Carolina in exactly this fashion, guys.
Well, that's going to be the test. We talk about Carolina's strength and their ability to go far in the tournament come March. But the bottom line is they can't allow teams to control tempo. Here at home, they might be able to survive that. If you get on a neutral floor, you've got to generate your own energy. And the way teams control the tempo, Mike, is they don't turn it over in the open floor. They minimize those fast break opportunities.
And in that Duke game, North Carolina had 1 fast break bucket. 1. May short on a jumper. An excellent defense that trip down by Virginia, really hustling, double teaming. And I'm telling you, you have to tip your hat to the Virginia coaching staff. I mean, they were looking at the season really going down the drain big time. And now they have revived this year. Here's Singletary back in the ball game. Forbes, he's hit 2 straight from out there. Almost the same spot. Cavaliers down by 1.
When you talk about Gary Forbes and the 21 points against Virginia Tech, 17 in the second half. Shooting that 3, he can do that. This is a young man that is very explosive offensively. He's had to discipline his game to fit within this structure. And I think now, with the penetration and the kick opportunities that this offense Virginia's now put on the floor, those opportunities that present themselves, that Forbes will benefit greatly.
One of the things that was interesting when they said they put Gary Forbes in the lineup for his defense, and he was the one that ended up hitting the big shots from outside.
Well, sometimes they say the best defense is a good offense.
Here you go.
It goes the other way too. But
North Carolina turns it over again. Here is Forbes coming down 1-on-3 and makes the smart decision. We'll wait for help, but Virginia's got a chance to take the lead.
And that's the discipline that I'm talking about. Gary Forbes, his freshman year, he would have challenged that one guy.
Yep. J.R. Reynolds, the sophomore from Roanoke, gives it off to Smith, who was lazy with it and lost it. Possession arrow will give it back to Virginia. Let's go to Doris.
Guys, it was the home loss to Carolina, followed by the road loss at Providence. That was the impetus to change the style. For Pete Gillen, he said slow down. Style needs fewer turnovers, fewer opponent possessions, guys. It has worked thus far. They're more committed on the defensive end as well. He said they bought in, and they're playing harder, guys.
And it's interesting, Doris, because it is not a style that he prefers. I mean, coaches have patterns that go back years and years and years. Pete Gillen always liked to run and score a lot of points. You understand that, but it wasn't working.
The most difficult thing for a coach to do is understand the identity of his team. Many times coaches want to plug teams into their style, into their program and system, instead of looking at the personnel and devising a system that works.
May got it down to Jawad Williams, and Williams hits the bucket. It's a 3-point lead. Quickly back the other way. Smith gets the loose ball, tries to go inside against May, and just tossed that up, and then begs for the foul.
You'll never get a foul.
Continuing to play on.
You'll never get a foul fading away.
offensive rebound by McCants, and he gets a hand. May back the other way, and foul.
You know, you talk about Carolina being able to play in a more slow tempo half court. The thing that works for them is the fact that they move the ball so well inside and overall. I mean, this is a team that essentially has almost 21 assists per game. #1 in the nation in assists. So they're unselfish as I don't know what.
They're #1 in a lot of things. #1 in scoring, #4 in field goal percentage, #6 in three-point percentage. That's nationally. In the ACC, they are #1 in all those categories. And May at the free throw line already has 5 points tonight. He has just developed into a tremendous basketball player.
And it all begins with the improved conditioning over the last couple of years.
21-16, Carolina extends the lead back to 5. It was as close as 1.
I mean, going back to Sean May, you always knew he had the talent. As Carolina right now is starting to play a little zone right here, 1-3-1, changing up on Virginia. You knew he had the talent, but the question is, could he sustain? When you're not in shape, your lack of conditioning betrays you.
Shot clock is down to 3. Dangerous cross-court pass. Knocked out of bounds by McCants. 1 on the shot clock when we come back. North Carolina 4th ranked this week in the polls, 21-16 over Virginia with 7:47 to go first half from Chapel Hill. 1 second on the shot clock. Virginia to inbound. Singletary looking for Forbes, gets it to him, fires. Darn near made that thing on a bank. Would have been good. McCants, triple team, baseline. Boy, it looked like Sean May got a hand on that on the rim. No call.
Well, they got pretty close, and I looked at the Virginia bench. No one really argued. They got a pretty good angle as well.
Biggest lead, 7 for the Heels right now. Trying to crank it up defensively. Kane out of the corner, air ball. May out to Felton, ahead to Jackie Manuel. Manuel walk.
We'll get a chance to take a look right here. Yeah, a little.
Oh, yeah.
Fingertip.
Oh, yeah.
Little Stevie Wonder fingertips action.
Well, he got away with it, got the bucket. The lead is 7 at 23-16. It will be Virginia's ball with 7:10 to go. And we had a quick timeout by Pete Gillen. He doesn't want things to get out of hand here. Let's check in with Doris Burke. Doris.
Well, guys, taking a look back at 1981, the cost of living back then, it was the second gas crisis in this country. A gallon of gas, an absurd $1.35 at that point. Remember the first back in 1974, the lines were long. Average home price, $83,000. That big old cell phone, they've gotten a little bit smaller, $4,000. Think about this, guys. 15 cents for a first-class stamp. That was in March. The outrage came in November when it went up to 20. Unemployment astronomical at 7.6. A loaf of bread back then, guys, 53 cents. Milk, $2.22. Really more expensive than I expected.
Yeah, milk sounds like it was more expensive. A house for $83,000 wasn't bad. I don't care if it was only 1 bedroom and 1 bath. $83,000 is not bad. Now, how much did it take to get your hair done?
Well, I'll tell you what, I usually do it myself. Actually, before the game, I mentioned that I wanted to give Dr. J back his hair. He called and said he didn't want it.
People had been walking by staring at Len Elmore like you wouldn't believe all night. Well, you would believe it. I did the same thing.
See, they go to my barber. Those guys. They just got a little tint.
Virginia has stayed within hailing distance here. Singletary stumbles his way in, gets it outside. Devin Smith forced the shot and can't hit it.
So the only problem with the offense is they're getting long shots, but no offensive rebound.
Nice wraparound pass to Manuel, trying to find the handle. double team. The tip won't go, and Virginia ball. Bannister double teams, pulls it back in. Bannister then goes baseline. Lost it on the way up. Loose ball. Virginia has it back again. Forbes. He's hit 2 from outside. Misses this. Here comes Melvin Scott quickly ahead to Felton. Felton penetrates and is fouled as he got into the lane. That's going to be on Sean Singletary, his second. Big night of college basketball tomorrow on ESPN and ESPN2 at 7 Eastern on ESPN HD. It's Louisville and Marquette. Then at 9 on ESPN2. Sheldon Williams, J.J. Redick, and Duke against Virginia Tech. Williams with 6 double-doubles in his last 7 games. Throwdown Thursday tomorrow on ESPN and ESPN2. Felton on a 1-1 hits the first. And Raymond Felton has become such a complete player. He was just a point guard, albeit a brilliant one a year ago. Now he's a point guard as well as a very dangerous scorer for the league.
I think he's done his best damage on the defensive end as well, where he gets a hand on a lot of balls, creates a lot of deflections right there that gets the fast break started. Things that don't show up on the stat sheet.
Puts a lot of pressure on the other point guard. Jawad Williams will get a breather here as McCants checks back in.
You know, going back to Ray Felton, very uncharacteristic of him in the Duke game, 8 turnovers. It just looked like he was indecisive, and that's what the result of indecision is, turnovers. Right now, he's very aggressive.
Reynolds gets it to Brown. There's the double team. Brown trying to work his way into the lane and hits the runner. 4 points for Elton Brown, who was on the bench for a couple of games. McCants quickly back the other way, misses the shot. The lead is 6.
McCants in a shooting slump, came into this game shooting 37% over the last 5 games and 5 of 25 from beyond the arc. He's got to find his touch.
Nice fake by Bannister, takes it in and draws the foul. Good penetration by the sophomore.
Well, Elton Brown, again, if you're going to take those outside shots, you got to establish some inside presence. You know, only 4 points for Elton Brown. He's a guy you need to look at. If nothing else, when you throw the ball inside to him, you force the defense to adjust, which will give the open shooters a chance to make up some room and get the ball in an inside-out situation and probably flow to the basket, have their weight and momentum carried into the hoop.
The kind of graphics you're seeing, the uniforms, the hideous way we're dressed. If this is the kind of thing that appeals to you, turn on ESPN Classic every Wednesday night. You'll be able to see some throwback action there, at least for the next couple of weeks. 6 points.
But not everybody's going to be as sartorially resplendent as
no, absolutely not. McCants again with a miss, and there's a long rebound to Rayshawn Terry. May got his own rebound.
Just great position down low for Sean May, to the point of if he misses point blank, he's in such great position, nobody can get to the ball but him. And a lot of that has to do with excellent footwork.
Brown wants the ball.
See, I think Brown's a little too high. Inside presence mean down on a low block.
Shot clock at 8. Smith, good long-range shooter. That one under a lot of pressure, and he can't hit it. Good defense by the Heels. And Felton for 3. Big shot. Raymond Felton with a couple of bombs from outside. He has 10 points. The lead has grown to 9.
And here's where Virginia doesn't want this to get away from them. Absolute critical possession for the Cavaliers.
Bannister under constant pressure from Felton. It was a big turnaround on that last possession. Virginia misses a 3 and North Carolina hits one. And now Felton called for a foul. Got a timeout, 3:57 to go. First half. Back to Chapel Hill in a moment. I missed that. What were they saying?
They said, do you like the throwback unis? He said, no, if you're going to do it, go with the shorts.
Yeah, absolutely. Or they can have what we're wearing. 29-20, Carolina over Virginia, and the Heels have really built this lead on their play inside. They have owned the paint. Bannister trying to penetrate, knocked away by May, stolen by Felton. That's the 8th turnover against Virginia, something they have done a much better job of recently. Brown the outlet to Bannister. TJ Bannister, pull-up jumper for 3. That would have been a big shot.
Problem was, though, the shot was taken with nobody on the glass. Talk about inside presence. Carolina leads Virginia points in the paint 16-4. That's the second time in 2 possessions Sean May's gotten knocked down. And Carolina's shooting a terrific percentage, around 55%. And a lot of it has to do with getting the ball inside. There's the pull down.
You wonder what Elton Brown was thinking.
Well, he was trying to avoid May's shoulder as May wanted to establish contact. You know, a good post player is going to try to get you on his hip, use his shoulder and his side to lock you and then establish position. And obviously Brown took issue with it, but you don't use your hands to get away, but you move your feet.
May at the free throw line hits the first, the junior from Bloomington, Indiana. 9 points tonight, going for his 10th, and he's hit all 3 of his free throws. They get 4 out of 4, and now it's the biggest lead of the game. Heels up 31-20.
And now Virginia has to deal with the psychology of being down double digits, playing against a team that had you by 50 at one point the last time you met. And you know that's got to be on their minds in the huddle and out here on the floor. The question is what they're going to do about it. And it's all about patience on the offensive end and being able to string together a couple of stops defensively. They haven't been able to keep Carolina out of the paint.
Smith kicks it out to Singletary. It's an off-balance, ugly-looking shot. Of course, you can look on the bright side. If you're Virginia, they're saying we're 39 points closer than we were last time. Nice pass by Felton. Jackie Manuel wide open. Tries to move inside. May gets the loose ball and puts it on.
And that's the difficulty with running an offense that's got 3 guards and now 3.5 guards. With Devin Smith out there, small forward. You don't have enough bodies in there to contest the big body of North Carolina's Sean May in the paint. Elton Brown steps up to help, and there's nobody who has his back.
And Virginia has gone 8 minutes with a single field goal.
If you look at the shots, there's a shot sheet. All of them are coming from right there.
Reynolds? No. May with another rebound. That is 7 in the first half for Sean May, who's second in the ACC with almost 10 a game and averaging a double-double in the conference. McCants. That one hurts if you're Virginia.
And Mike, I don't like Virginia's body language. After that shot was made, collectively their shoulders drooped, their heads went down. As I said, memories of that thrashing at their home starting to creep in.
Singletary misses. Nobody underneath but white and blue. Manuel wide open, doesn't want the shot. He was told 2 years ago, you're not in there to shoot. You're in there to play defense and rebound. And he responded to Roy Williams very well. McCants with a run. And Carolina just blitzing Virginia right now, 38-20. Forbes back the other way with a runner and a foul.
See, now there's a guy that's got a little fire in his eyes offensively. Yes, we've said that Gary Forbes at times can be out of control. But I'll tell you what, he gets to the glass. You know, he makes offensive moves that puts pressure on the defense. If I'm Pete Gillen, I got to turn him loose. You don't have any other opportunity. Take a look at Forbes right here. Gets to the baseline quickly enough and puts pressure on the defense. These 18, 20, 24-footers that Virginia's settling for puts no pressure on the Carolina defense, and it's just a bad shot means a fast break the other way.
Forbes out of Brooklyn, New York, coming off a 21-point performance against Virginia Tech. Can't complete the three-point play. The lead is at 16. Thomas in at the point guard.
Right now, it's about defense for Virginia, though. In order to cut Forbes loose, you got to get possession. You can't trade baskets at this point.
No, you need some quality stops. Williams, shot clock at 15, throws it away. Devin Smith bringing it down for the Cavaliers. Singletary, good pass into the corner. Reynolds lost his concentration and the basketball.
We're talking about Rashad McCants, who's in kind of a shooting slump. This is the best way to get yourself out. Look at the screen right here. The step out by Brown, but he's got to stay with him. Get those short mid-range shots, makes you feel better about your offense.
4 assists in the ball game from McCants. His defense has been much better. His unselfishness has been much better. 19 on the shot clock, about a 5-second difference from the game clock. Jawad Williams with a drive. There's Sean May again, can't hit it, but gets the foul. Let's go to Doris Burke. Doris?
Guys, Sean May, probably the teammate closest to Rashad McCants, said a season ago if he was in a slump, he would have punted shots. That's not the case. Very unselfish. Has a chance to set a career high in assists already 4 through first 20 minutes. Completely different mentality. Even when he's not scoring, he's defending better and willing to involve other guys.
He has really turned things around this year, Doris. Tunji Soroya picked up the last foul, seeing his first action for Virginia. Now May is in with 13 points tonight. Sean May, as a freshman, had a broken bone in his foot, really couldn't run, ended up playing only 10 games, couldn't rehab as a sophomore, was really out of shape. And they said at the end of the games, here's a guy who's 6'9", he couldn't get the ball to the rim. He was so out of shape.
Well, he's definitely worked hard now. You know, before the game, they have this drill where you throw the ball in the post and you got to power up with a 7-pound medicine ball. And Sean May handles it like it was a golf ball.
Looked like North Carolina got away with one there. Forbes gets the rebound, and he is fouled by Melvin Scott. That's 2 on Scott. And Forbes has made a big difference offensively in the first half for the Cavaliers. He'll go to the line on the 1-and-1 with 5.7 seconds to go in the half. And Kane will come back in and get Devin Smith out of the ball game along with Singletary, so they don't pick up additional fouls in the last 5.7. Felton also coming out to get a breather.
We talked about Rashad.
No, check it. He just went over to talk to Roy Williams.
Talked about Rashad McCants' distribution ability. You know, Ray Felton, for all that he's done tonight, believe it or not, he's got no assists. Doesn't mean he's not in the game, though. He's been moving the ball. He's stepped up, taking available shots and made them.
And a lot of time assists are not necessarily about the passes, but about the shots that follow the pass. And he's had a couple of beautiful passes that his teammates failed to convert on.
That's right. That's why it's so much emphasis placed on assists. It's not always the final pass. You know, it's his job as a point guard to get people in position, to get the offense started. And then if the shot clock's running down, it's his job to break down the D.
Felton so quick, pushes it down to Williams. The long runner, no. Outstanding last 5 minutes of the half for North Carolina. Look at the contrast from last time. It was 62-26 at the half in Charlottesville. Here it is 39-24. That's our halftime score. Chris Fowler and Jay Billis will be joined in the studio by Barry Melrose on the UPS Halftime Report.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Land Rover. Experience the entirely new Land Rover LR3 at LandRoverUSA.com. And Nike Pro Apparel.
That pretty much says it all, as it's a throwback game as North Carolina leading Virginia 39-24. Welcome back to Chapel Hill, everybody. Mike Patrick, Len Elmore, Doris Burke. I still can't look at you.
It is me.
The lead is 15 points. Virginia, I would think, would be reasonably happy with the first half.
Well, to the extent that they're getting shots, but they got to start making them, get on the offensive glass. But more importantly, Carolina at 54% from the field, they've got to make it more difficult, particularly the entry passes into Sean May.
Sean May has had a relatively easy time inside against some very porous Virginia interior defense.
That time they forced May to the baseline, and he turned it over trying to make an interior pass.
Doris Burke with us tonight. Doris, what do you have?
Mike, you were exactly right moments ago. For Pete Gillen and his staff, they did not feel too badly about giving up 39 points in 20 minutes to the #1 scoring team. But, Len, you touched on it. They feel like they had a lot of open looks, only 2 of 12 from behind the arc. They were open shots, makeable shots. They need to do that in the second half.
Yeah, I agree totally that they're getting shots. They still have to establish that inside presence. They've got to look at Brown, at least allow him to touch it on the blocks. And there he is way deep in the corner.
Smith open for threes, their best perimeter shooter in the top 10 all-time at Virginia. That was his best look of the night, and he cuts the lead to 12. Virginia is not a good shooting team. And McCants may have gotten away with a push-off and took advantage of it.
And it all comes down to defense for Virginia. It does you no good to be able to hit those threes if you're going to trade baskets with this deficit movement.
Virginia has been going with a 3-guard offense that has led to 3 straight victories in the ACC. North Carolina has won 6 of its last 7. The Heels number 4 in the country. Forbes nearly lost it, picked up by Smith. And he lost it coming in. Here's Jawad Williams ahead to McCants. 16-footer good. Rashad McCants has scored the last 5. He has 13 for the game.
And I suspect Rashad McCants has found his shooting eye. We said before, coming into this game, a slight slump over the last 5 games. 37% from the field, 20% from beyond the arc. But in this game, he's starting to light it up.
Virginia wants to shorten this game, limit the number of possessions. It's a good strategy, but you've got to hit your shots to come back. Nice feed into Brown, and Brown fouled by May. That'll be 2 on Sean May. In the paint, it was all North Carolina, 20-2. Everything else reasonably close.
How'd you like to have Virginia's hand if you were playing some Texas Hold'em?
That would be okay. Go all in on that one.
Doesn't count here.
No, it doesn't.
Not between those lines.
Smith gets away from a double team. Forbes starts the second half.
See,
Getting a little restless here.
And Mike, against the pressure right now, Virginia, they want to take some time off the clock, but they've got to be more aggressive to the basket. They're going to wind up shooting threes. Somebody's got to make some penetration to the hole first.
Bannister, good job to get inside. Gets it off to Singletary, and the 6-foot freshman has his first basket.
And that's the blueprint right there. Get the ball in the paint.
Felton back the other way. Here comes Virginia. Bannister. Forbes on the follow. Got it. McCants gives it up to Felton. Here's Manuel. He's not going to shoot from out there very often.
Well, T.J. Bannister gave him about 8 feet and dared him to shoot that.
Good feed inside to Williams. Brown late to get there defensively and commits the foul on top of allowing the basket. Elton Brown playing a lot of defense with his hands tonight, and that won't work.
Well, he's got to be able to move his feet. There, as you mentioned, not quick enough to cut Williams off, and you give Jawad Williams a lot of credit for the patience in gathering himself, the ball fakes to kind of get the defender off balance. And Jawad Williams, we talk about seniors, is one of those guys that's totally underrated. 3rd in the conference in field goal percentage, really solid and consistent.
Been in a little bit of a scoring slump lately. There's a nice dish to McCants, cutting without the ball. McCants has 15, and the lead quickly back up to 16 points. Every time Virginia cuts into it, Carolina has a little spurt.
And Carolina just willing to sit back in that zone. Kind of playing a 1-3-1, although at times it looks like a 2-1-2. They want to cover the shooters. If Virginia's going to stay way outside, the clock is their enemy.
Three-pointer by Devin Smith. One and done for Virginia. Felton, nice dish to Manuel. That's a great vision.
And it's also a great adjustment. A moment ago, I talked about the fact that T.J. Bannister's guarding Jackie Manuel on the perimeter. Oh, Manuel takes him inside now where he has a huge height advantage.
Timeout, 16:09 to go in the game. North Carolina in control. Off the dish by Felton and the basket by Manuel. They're now up by 18. All right, Chris, number 2 and number 3 went down this week earlier, and North Carolina number 4. They're up 49-33 here against Virginia. Our thanks to Nike for the throwback uniforms. Both clubs are wearing tonight the V-neck variety. But the shorts look nothing like what they did in 1981.
There's enough material there for 2 shorts the way they used to wear them in 81.
For sure. Good defense there by Brown. Took it away from Sean May, who got a little careless.
One thing that we got to remember is with a 3-point shot today, something they didn't have in 81, there's still time for a team like Virginia to get back in it if they don't turn it over. They're getting the shots. They got to make them.
Felton created that turnover, and there's the foul. Great job by Manuel to try to block out the defender. Now this is going to be an intentional foul call on Gary Forbes.
I'm not so sure about it being intentional. I mean, it was a hard foul. Yeah, well, maybe he never got to the ball. He's swinging for it, but he never got to it. You see, his hand is going for the ball, but Felton's head got in the way. Now, no, seriously, I'm not trying to be flip about it.
That's an attorney's argument, isn't it?
Well, this is not about intent. It never was. And when you talk about intentional foul, it's about whether you make a play on the ball. And Forbes going for the ball, unfortunately, Felton's head got in the way. You could see that he was going for the ball from that angle. But again, one of the officials spoke to the official on the spot making the call and had him tack on to the intentional foul.
Did they teach you this at Harvard?
No. It's just my position. But then again, at this point in time, it doesn't really matter, you know? I mean, it gets to the point now where the officials have to make a call, and I think the crowd reaction, the intensity of the foul was something that forced the official to have to call an intentional foul.
You know what? If Raymond Felton had your hair, that wouldn't have hurt him more. He could have taken that blow and nothing.
That's right. Forbes' hand would have gotten lost.
That's right.
In the boot bump.
Williams may have overpassed. Jackie Manuel is there. Manuel keeps it alive and tips it in. (52-33). The lead mounts to 19. And there's a beautiful feed into Brown. Gets away from the easy layup. One of the few Virginia's had inside tonight. May a little too strong for Jawad Williams. Throwdown Thursday tomorrow on ESPN and ESPN2 at 7 Eastern on ESPN and ESPN HD. Louisville and Marquette. The Cardinals dominated the first meeting, but the Golden Eagles have been on a roll. Then at 9 on ESPN2, Sheldon Williams and Duke against Xavier Dowdell and Virginia Tech.
Well, 2 teams, Louisville and Duke, trying to get back to their winning ways. Louisville is one of those teams that was just absolutely destroying people in the margin of victory until they ran into a buzzsaw with Memphis.
Devin Smith open for 3, too strong. Brown with a long rebound.
And that's one of the things Virginia has failed at. When they shoot the 3, they don't have their guards stepping up and getting a long rebound. And their big guys, whoever was on the board, and usually only one, is too far underneath.
And that's been Elton Brown. He's been the only one. Devin Smith prefers to be more of a perimeter player. So basically they're playing Brown and 4 guards, and Elton Brown hits the jumper from the baseline. He has 10, and it's 52-37. Virginia creeps back into it.
That's only a 6th field goal attempt. Virginia just not exploring inside enough.
A rare shot from outside from McCants. Bannister tries to win against McCants, and it's an offensive foul. You're not going to be able to drive on McCants. He is too good a defensive player.
Well, this is not only good, but it's smart. And just a nice job there of just setting up. That was Jackie Manuel.
Or Manuel, excuse me.
And that's Jackie Manuel's job. That's what he does, a terrific defender. He didn't have any points against Connecticut, but did an excellent job against Rudy Gay.
And Jackie Manuel is going to relish an opportunity like that. The Cants nearly lost this one. 13 minutes to go from Chapel Hill. Another reach-in steal. Virginia has sporadically played some very good defense. And this is a reach-in by Noel. He'll get his second.
That was a pretty good play in the post by T.J. Bannister. We talked about him at 5'10 and a half being at a height deficit against Jackie Manuel. That's the guy he's guarding. And Manuel, instead of stepping outside, decides to post up. And right here, look at the footwork by T.J. Bannister in getting around. Manuel never really locked him.
Even though he went to a small school, he was third in the voting for Mr. Basketball in Florida a couple years ago. Boy, I like Singletary. He's a good-looking freshman guard, and he's getting better. Guarded by Felton. Gets a screen from Bannister. Bannister will try a three. Got it. 52, or Singletary, 52 to 40. Excuse me.
And you can hear the crowd getting a little impatient right now. Virginia hanging around. And as I mentioned, the great equalizer, the three-point shot.
May was double teamed and fouled. It's going to be on Reynolds, sophomore from Roanoke, with a reach in.
Boy, if you're a coach, if you could take back every reach in foul.
Easy bucket for Sean May on the inbounds.
You know, that's just not what you teach defensively. The guys continue to do it, particularly at a time when you're trying to make a comeback. You know, those are automatic fouls.
Singletary will try another three after hitting one and missed this one badly. Felton, nice pass to Noel, lost it on the way up.
And you take a look right here. Just never saw the ball, did Jason Kane. You got to be able to see the ball in a situation like that. As you mentioned, it's an easy bucket for Sean May. You got to have your back to the basket, but you got to be able to see ball man. Baseline.
54-40. Manuel kicks it out to Scott. Very good shooter, although he didn't look like it on that one. And it's out of bounds to the Cavaliers. 11:47 left to go.
We gon' celebrate and have a good time. It's time to come together. It's up to you. What's your pleasure? Everyone.
North Carolina leads by 14, 54-40. Let's check in with Doris.
Mike, as if adjusting to major college basketball and the stringent academic life at the University of Virginia isn't enough, Sean Singletary, a young man who is also dealing with his mom's battle with breast cancer. She is just weeks away from her final treatment and dealing with that illness, and his brother about 1 month away from returning with a tour of duty in Iraq. Mike Krzyzewski said earlier this season, this is a young man who plays with a poise beyond his years. It's no wonder he's had to deal with an awful lot.
Our thoughts and prayers and best wishes for safety goes out to Sean Singletary and his entire family in their battles with the various things that a lot of people in this country face all the time.
You know, so many people talk about this game, and this is one of those outlets for Sean Singletary where he can leave his troubles behind, if just for 40 minutes.
That foul was on Jackie Manuel, his third, trying to draw another charge. That was the fourth team foul against the Heels. Virginia has the same, and Devin Smith will go to the free throw line, where he's in the top 10 in the ACC. Smith, very good shooter, always has been. And nicks the front of the rim.
Is that the Patrick Jinx?
Cursed again.
But you know, Devin Smith does like to play away from home, averaging about 20 points a game in road games and only about 15 at home. So he takes the crowd and puts it to good use, the hostile crowd.
I mean, how lucky do you think I am? Did you see this coat?
It looks good on you, man. That's how I remember.
I had one like this
Back in the day.
Yep. It was the leisure suits that were the killers, though. If you like what you see here tonight, why not try ESPN Classic on Wednesday night? The 2 remaining games, they will look a lot like this. UAB at St. Louis, Wednesday, February 23rd. Rutgers, Notre Dame, Wednesday, March 2nd. Elton Brown picked up his 3rd foul on that last possession. This one's knocked away, and fortunately for Carolina, right back to Felton. Scott is in there at a guard spot. Manuel wide open. Fouled from behind. Gary Forbes thought he got all ball, and Forbes will pick up his 3rd. And our official scorer, Fred Kiger. Look at this. Freddie. I love it.
Freddie was a prep star back then in the 80s. That's why he's got that paisley on. That's what the prep guys wore.
Fred styling tonight.
You know, Virginia went to that zone a moment ago, and you got to give Carolina credit for exercising a great deal of patience.
Yep.
You know, they saw some openings, could have rushed shots, but they worked to get the best shot point blank in the paint.
3 points for Manuel, the senior from Palm Beach, Florida. Recently engaged. And I think Manuel just picked up his 4th foul. And Larry Rose says, yep, it's on you. All ACC defensive team is Jackie Manuel. That's the reason he is in there. He very rarely scores, but they've got plenty of scores on this team.
Well, they do. And, you know, they've got 2 experts between Jackie Manuel and David Noel. You know, they've held stars from the last 4 opponents to a combined 36%. We're talking about Julius Hodge, Von Wafer, J.J. Redick, and Rudy Gay. None of them scored over 20 points.
Devin Smith had a dunk and a follow. Couldn't hit either one of them. McCants spinning back the other way. McCants got the bucket and drew the foul. That's a huge turnaround. 17 points for McCants.
And just when they get oh so close, you take a look right here. Not a lot of defense stopping him on that one. That was just brain lock. And then here in transition, once again, you see the combination of strength and agility by Rashad McCants. Again, spinning on his man, ball fake, and then the upper body strength for the finish.
And then Smith compounds his error at the other end, gets the personal foul. There's the 3-point play, and it's 58-51. So once again, Virginia got it down to almost a workable margin, and North Carolina spurts back out.
And it was on a self-inflicted error, too. That's the problem.
5-second call. Sean Singletary doubled up, couldn't get rid of the ball.
And that's the kind of stuff that makes Pete really sweat and have to call a timeout. Again, you look at the double team right here. After the miss, which was a 4-point turnaround, you got the travel here. Good job by Carolina with the pressure.
Go back to 1981. Here were the champions in pro sports. Do you remember these? The Oakland Raiders against the Eagles. They win it 27-10. Played today. The American hostages came home from Iran. Yellow ribbons all around to commemorate. Remember hockey? The Islanders beat the Canucks 4-0. May not see the Stanley Cup for a while. The Boston Celtics against the Houston Rockets. The final was 102-91.
All right, this one I don't want to see.
Yeah. And the Dodgers beat the Yankees to clinch the World Series 9-2. Pleasant Colony was the Kentucky Derby winner. King Richard won the Daytona 500. I think I was there for that one. And Clemson won the NCAA football Division I championship.
And what made that Dodger championship so painful, the Yankees went out 2-0 and wound up losing 4 straight.
Tommy Lasorda liked it.
That's when George Steinbrenner called Dave Winfield a great Hall of Famer, Mr. May, because he wasn't producing in October.
Oh, that's cold.
That didn't go over well with Big Dave.
Felton with a miss, the rebound to Brown. He'll bring it up himself, gets across the timeline, and that's why the big guy is not supposed to be controlling the basketball. This one's knocked out of bounds out to Virginia.
Well, the biggest reason is as they get possession of the ball, you see right there, Gary Forbes and Rashad McCants going after a good call by the officials. McCants got a hand on it. The biggest reason is that Brown is standing straight up. When you're in a crowd, you got to get down low. Look at Singletary as he bends over and keeps that ball low against defenders. Makes it more difficult for them to deflect.
Singletary looking inside. Brown against a triple team and lost the basketball. Elton Brown has to realize who he is and where he is.
And look how he's standing straight up right here. Look how high that ball is. Just makes it very easy for Ray Felton to get his hand in there. You know, if you want to be a guard, act like a guard.
Don't grow so much.
Well, these days, you know, you got 6'9" guys that handle as well as 5'10" guys.
McCants, nice feed to Williams.
We told you this team leads the nation in assists, totally unselfish. They're looking for the best opportunity. It doesn't matter who's there.
And 6 assists from McCants. Smith, low to Brown, double team, works his way in, draws a foul.
You know, it's not only about the ball movement, it's the movement without the ball. Look at Jawad Williams at the top setting the screen and just slips the screen. And his teammates find him again. That was a jump shot there for Rashad McCants, but instead he's going to find the guy with the best opportunity. That's what this game is all about. It's not complex. Very simple.
Right. Can be. Brown at the line, third in the ACC in rebounding. Missed the first free throw. Get another. The lead is at 19, and even though the game continues to be out of the reach, it would seem, of the Virginia Cavaliers, they have won their last 3 games with a slow-down tempo, and portends good things for them down the stretch here going into the ACC tournament.
Unfortunately for them, though, at least the pace and tempo of this game looks like Carolina's on its way to playing at least in the high 70s, if not the 80s.
There aren't many holes in this Carolina team, and Jawad Williams is fouled on the way up. Following our game, stay tuned for some great NBA action. Jason Richardson and Golden State against the Sonics. NBA Wednesday here on ESPN. For more, log on to ESPN.com. Last foul was on Bannister. That was his third. And the foul starting to mount for the Cavaliers.
Hey, what you got?
You would just have to think, Len, from a psychological standpoint, you got to have a better taste in your mouth if you're Virginia than that home game where they were just slaughtered by the Heat.
Yeah, I mean, there are times when we can say, and most of the time we can say that there's no such thing as moral victory. You know, you lose the game, but Virginia is trying to improve. They're building towards something, hopefully the culmination in the ACC tournament. You know, we've seen some really good play out of them. We've also seen perseverance, which I think is the thing Pete Gillen wants to see out of his team. In adversity, they continue to work. Whereas in that game, that previous game against Carolina, they totally quit.
Singletary, another impressive play as he got penetration and hit the shot. Now McCants hits a 3, and Carolina has its biggest lead at 21 points. Rashad McCants, 21 on the night. Only once in the last 16 games until right now had he had a 20-point ball game.
And the interesting part about was Roy Williams. As soon as McCants hits that shot, instead of admiring the shot, he gets down and says, "Now play defense."
Talk about a change. Let's go to Doris. More on Rashad McCants.
Well, guys, if you look at his shoes, there is writing all over it. Ask him why, he'll tell you, well, I wanted something to remind me why I'm still playing basketball and why I'm trying to be the best. In all, at times, guys, more than 3 dozen initials, nicknames, symbols, sayings, referring to family, friends, and NBA players, guys, who have had an impact on his life. MJ, LB, MJ, Michael, Larry, Magic, and also a reference, a Cam, a former academic advisor, rest in peace, somebody he misses very much. So meaning in all of that, guys.
Hard to imagine that he would remember Magic And Larry Bird.
Hey, that's why we have ESPN Classic.
That's right. Foul on Reynolds. Let's go to the studio while we have a chance. Here's Chris.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is presented by Staples. That was easy. And in part by Bass. Reach for greatness.
North Carolina with a 65-46 lead with 7:53 to go against Virginia in this throwback game to 1981 and 1982. There's Marvin Williams with those nice averages, and the sensational freshman not playing tonight, an injured big toe on his left foot. Doesn't appear to be anything serious, but they have kept him out as a precaution.
Marvin Williams, for me, that's objective proof that North Carolina has the best starting five in America. You look at those numbers, and he's only doing it, within a limited amount of time, a little over 20 minutes.
Right.
And he can't break into the starting lineup. He'd be starting for any other team in the nation.
Absolutely. McCants with 22 points tonight, make it 23. He's hit 9 out of 12 shots from the floor, 5 out of 5 in the second half, and I think he's out of that slump you talked about, Len.
And all it takes was a couple of easy shots. He put it on the floor, worked to get some close-range shots, mid-range shots, and once you start feeling good about it, you can step back.
Forbes, who really has some offensive firepower for this team, with 14 points.
I just don't think his teammates play with him enough. I know in the past he's had poor discipline offensively, but tonight he's playing with a passion as well as with discipline.
And played well against Virginia Tech. Thomas with a rare shot. That was only the 17th field goal he has tried in 24 games this year. But it's a good sign when you're wide open and you'll take that shot without hesitation.
And again, you talk about the excellent ball movement. Look at it swing around the horn. And then wide open. When you get that kind of time, if you're any kind of shooter, you're going to make some of those. And Quentin Thomas, he's a pass-first kind of guy. But you got to be able to take those open shots, and he did.
Scott did a good job of finding him. Forbes will go back to the line, the sophomore out of Brooklyn, where he was the player of the year as a high school senior.
And again, you talk about learning your team's identity, which has been a struggle for Pete Gillen this year. He thinks he's finally come across it. But one of the things he's got to focus on is when you're having difficulty with offense, you got a guy like Gary Forbes that you can cut loose. You got to start calling some plays for him. Now, the biggest problem for Gary Forbes is Pete can't afford to keep him on the floor because his defense has to improve.
Jump ball situation, possession arrow will give it back to Virginia.
But Forbes can definitely light it up.
Yes, he can. Forbes, Singletary, Reynolds, and Bannister, all sophomores or freshmen, really giving them some spark. Forbes with a runner. Boy, nice touch there. 70-53. Forbes with 19 points.
That's to back up the 21-point performance at Virginia Tech.
Absolutely. Leads cut to 17 as we approach the 6.5-minute mark. Jawad Williams forced it up. May is there as Virginia has to come with a double and a triple team to show off Williams. And May is right there for the follow.
And that's a lesson for anybody who really argues about establishing an inside presence. The guy with the ball on the block gets all the attention and other people can position themselves.
Williams ahead of the pack. One of the few times North Carolina's been able to get out and run.
They were just chomping at the bit. You could tell. Just needed that gate to be lifted.
Yeah, it's like letting that quarter horse go. Bannister baseline runner. May with a rebound again ahead to McCants. Good pass to Williams. A little fancy. May 16 feet in and out. Tip won't go. Tip will go. Scott's right there. Scott, who normally gets his from the outside, gets a tip in and leads back to 23. One and done again for Virginia. They had a streak like this in the first half, and it really doomed them. Felton, May with a miss. Boy, beautiful pass from Felton, and May couldn't hit it. Scott with a steal. And they're on their feet in Chapel Hill. Standing ovation for the Tar Heels as they go for their 21st victory of the year. The first time since 2001 they've gone over 20 victories.
And there's Elton Brown going ahead trying to play guard again. And obviously Melvin Scott just waiting for it. You know, that's one of those patented Carolina defensive strategies. You know, when you get a broken floor like that, they've got the little guards, Felton and Scott. They kind of lurk in the weeds. All the big guys, all the traffic goes by, and they just shoot right up and get that outlet pass to the point guard.
Check in with Doris.
Mike, you guys were talking earlier about the improved conditioning for Sean May. This is exactly where Roy Williams says you see it. Late in ball games, under 6 minutes, guys, a succession where he goes, boards it, scores it, boards it, all on opposite ends of the floor. His balance is better, his hands are better, all because of conditioning. This is where it'll pay off in March as well, guys, late March.
15 rebounds for that young man tonight, Doris, and his third straight double-double, the first time he's ever been able to do it. Kid really made a commitment to getting in better shape, and it's paid off big time for him.
Absolutely. He made a commitment to refine his tools. You know, he's had a lot of potential, a label of potential placed on him, but we give him credit for fulfilling that potential. A lot of guys don't do that. They don't put out, they don't do what it takes.
And he's a nice young man as well.
Oh, absolutely.
4:29 to go in the game. The lead has grown now to 25. Tomorrow night, a college basketball doubleheader at 7 Eastern on ESPN and available on ESPN HD. Francisco Garcia and Louisville take on Marquette. Then at 9 on ESPN2. Duke goes to Blacksburg to face Virginia Tech. Throwdown Thursday on ESPN and ESPN2. And Virginia Tech has been a particularly sticky situation for people this year. Thought to be one of the doormats joining the ACC, and Seth Greenberg has refused to let that happen.
Well, Seth has put together a team of young guys that go along with Carlos Dixon, a senior, but a lot of sophomores are freshmen. They're athletic, they're long, they get out and they pressure you, make it very difficult. They just have to learn how to win.
Heels continue to hustle. Sean May battling for it, and Roy Williams, the most successful head coach in the history of college basketball through 17 seasons. Won more than anybody. Virginia continues to run its offense. Forbes trying to penetrate. A lot of one-on-one right now.
That is their offense, Gary Forbes right now.
Yep. Felton with eyes in the back of his head, got off the pass that time, kicked out of bounds. North Carolina, you have to feel pretty good about where you are right now, going down the stretch and headed into the ACC tournament.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you've got the unselfishness. Guys, when you watch Carolina play, they're looking for each other. They're not just looking at the basket, they're looking for each other.
We've got a timeout and 3:50 to go from Chapel Hill. All right, Chris, thanks very much. 3:48 to go here at 79-55. The Heels on their way to their 21st victory. Balanced offensive attack, intensity throughout for North Carolina. That's Dante Minter seeing his first game action tonight. And Felton, 1-on-3. Felton has a dozen.
And Mike, about 2.5 minutes ago, I said Carolina was on their way to played in the 80s.
Yeah.
I think we're talking about possible century mark. They continue to get the fast break opportunities off Virginia turnovers.
Well, it's the leading scoring team in the country. And speaking of 80, that's about how fast Felton was going.
And again, it's all about either the turnover, the quick rebound, and the outlet pass. Felton, we see that outlet pass a step or two short of half court. And you get him out in front of the pack, it's going to be hard to catch.
North Carolina native Dante Minter missed the first free throw. He'll get another. He's been playing with a hand injury. Really hasn't seen that much action this year. Had a knee injury in preseason that limited not only his participation but his conditioning.
You know, shorts are so low they hide that brace he's wearing on his right knee.
One more slip, they'll hide his ankle.
You can barely see it right there. We're talking about a knee brace.
Those are not the throwback shorts. In fact, those old shorts from '81, those were almost embarrassing.
Comparatively.
There you go. Those are a little closer.
Now, they were probably a little tighter.
Yeah.
See,
there's Mike.
That's what they look like on Mike. 6'4", 6'5" frame.
Well, anything looked good on him. Like a crown.
And Mike, going back to your point about Carolina feeling good about themselves right now, we talked about the offense, but also defensively. You know, we talked about Jackie Emanuel and David Noel really locking down the stars of the other side. You know, team defense, they've done an excellent job of rebounding. And more importantly, they've got the depth now. They've got 8 players in a regular rotation, averaging about 10 minutes a game.
Right.
That's the perfect length of bench you want to use in the NCAA tournament.
Bannister trying to get inside and will commit the offensive foul with 2:32 to go. There's Len from his Maryland playing days with the short shorts and his own hair.
I was going to say, that was the real afro. That was in the mid-'70s, though. Yeah, it is. I've always wanted to run up and down the floor and have my hair kind of bouncing like Julius or some of the other guys, but couldn't get it to
well, it's working.
It's working all right.
And how about
it's hot and it's itchy. Huh?
You going to keep that?
And I might. You know, I see a lot of guys wearing the 6 and 7 button.
That's
suits.
the Stuart Scott outfit.
Yeah, but it's not a Lynn Elmore outfit.
Warriors and the Sonics coming up next. Hope you'll stay with us for that. 81-56. North Carolina will go to 21-3, 9-2 in the ACC. Virginia will have its 3-game winning streak snapped here in Chapel Hill. And they will get a sweep against North Carolina or against Virginia for the first time since 98-99. It has not been that easy for the Tar.
And when you look ahead for Virginia, you know, they've got Maryland at home. They got to play at Wake Forest. They got NC State at home and playing at Florida State. You know, as I mentioned before, the best that they're probably going to hope for, you know, if they can hold service at home, is going to be 6 and 10.
6 and 10. 6 and 10 means you're going to probably have to win the ACC tournament to get in.
And, you know, the shame of it is that, you know, they had the meltdown mid-season, but they had a quality win against Arizona, who was ranked number 10 back in November.
That was a terrific start. They were 6-0, including that win over Arizona. And they won a couple of close games in that stretch as well. And optimism was rampant in Charlottesville.
It all began with the Wake Forest loss. They lost by 19. And then they went on a 4-game losing streak in conference. So, you know, that's when the wheels kind of fell off, and it was punctuated by that Carolina loss at home. But again, we talked about it before. Give Pete Gillen a lot of credit for getting his guys to refocus. They're outmanned. There's no question about it. You know, Carolina still, with all due respect to Illinois, I still believe Carolina's the best team in the nation. And Virginia was playing.